Hello, it's Tony Kenyon here. I haven't done a video for quite some time, so I thought it was about time that I did a reading from the King brothers. The reminder came this morning from a Facebook Live memory that popped up in my post, and I realised it has been just forever since I've done a reading. So I have settled myself in my writing cave, which is where I spend so much of my time, banging out stories on the keyboard, of course. And I thought I would give you a reading from the second book, which is Liam and Alana's story. And it's just before they go out for their very first gig at the house that they're living in LA. And you may hear some scratching because I have a cat who is frantically trying to get in through the doors because she doesn't like them being closed, because she likes to spend most of her time in here with me too. So if you hear any weird scratchy noises, it's the cat trying to break in through the double sliding doors. So she's doing her very best at the moment. So anyway, we'll get on with the reading. I'm doing it old school, as I like to do it. I've actually got the words printed out here for you. So if there's a bit of rattling, it's the words being rearranged, but let's go. We're in Liam's point of view, and he's catching up with the band before their very first big gig. You all set? Marty arrived at the door of my room. His was located just down the hallway of the bedroom wing. As set as I'll ever be, I replied. Dylan walked in and dropped himself at the edge of my unmade bed. He looked pale and nervous, so you can hear the cat yowling. So Dylan looked pale and nervous. You okay, kid? I'd taken a real shine to him over the months that we'd been working together. It wasn't his fault that he knew nothing about life on the road. We'd all been there at one time or another. Yeah, he wiped the palms of his hands in a repetitive manner across the top of his jeans. He looked the Rockstar part. Dark denim jeans, a thick leather belt with a fantastic silver buckle that Calvin had managed to source from somewhere. His hair had grown out a little longer while we'd been on the road, and the youthful puppy dog eyes that he'd arrived with had been beaten out of him by long days in the rehearsal studio and long nights playing cards and drinking with the band. He had on the band's regulation white t-shirt, and he'd taken a shine to a nice brown leather waistcoat that gave him a rock country edge that would go down well with this crowd. Cuban heels set off the entire look. He was stage ready, and so were the rest of us. You're going to kill it out there, I said, and I knew it was what Dylan needed to hear. And it was reassuring to hear those words myself, even if they were coming out of my own mouth. We all knew that there was a lot riding on this gig. The record company had brought us over here, but we still had a hell of a lot to prove to this town. Yellow Lady may well have been the new kids on this particular block, but I knew it wasn't going to be long until the band's name was going to be on the lips of a worldwide audience. Turning the page. But I was also aware of the amount of work we were going to have to do before that day, and I was ready and willing to do that work alongside Dylan and the rest of the boys. Have you seen the crowd out there? Jesse arrived at the door, Marty by his side. The two of them looked as if they'd walked off a country rock poster, all blue jeans and white shirts, boots and buckles. Marty had a red and white bandana tied around his neck, his yellow blonde hair tied in a tall man bun on the top of his head. Jesse's blonde hair lay in disarray around the back of his neck, most of it held in place by a dark blue LA Dodgers baseball cap. I'd wanted him to wear an All Blacks rugby cap, but Calvin had other ideas. I was the only member of the band who didn't wear the regulation white t-shirt. I was dressed in all black. The only concession to colour being the teal and aqua blue stones that adorned the sterling silver wrist and armbands that I wore, and the bright blue aviator sunglasses that I'd taken to wearing since we'd arrived in LA. Who's out there? Dylan asked. I could hear the slight crack in his voice. Half the Hollywood A-list, Marty replied. It's a long way from Milford Beach Surf Club, mate, he added as he flicked the lid of his yellow drink bottle. My My orange, gosh, I've got trouble this morning. My orange bottle went everywhere with me, but I was touched to see that the lads had each brought theirs with them from New Zealand. None of us went on stage now without our allocated bottle of liquid. Those drink bottles had become a part of the tight-knit unit that made up Yellow Lady. Doesn't matter who's out there, I said, trying to cut these pre-show nerves off at the knees. All that matters is what we do on stage. We've been doing this for months. All we've got to do is get up there and give it our all. Don't worry who's out front. Good, you're all here. Calvin arrived in the doorway. You're needed for photos out front. Calvin checked his watch. Then you're on in half an hour. Let's go. We all trooped out the door of my bedroom and followed Calvin through the sprawling house that we'd begun to call home. The bedroom wing had been cut off from the rest of the house by a couple of guys who looked like security. But the balance of the house and the grounds heaved with humanity. Short of bars and clubs, I'd never seen this many people crammed into one place before. It was wall to wall men and women, all turned out looking as if they were going to some kind of awards dinner, not here to see me and the lads play. I felt as if I'd walked out of the sanctuary of my bedroom into some alternate reality. Perfect people as far as the eye could see. Even my stomach lurched as I spotted A-listers like Beck, Drake, Usher, Jared Leto and Matt Damon, to name a few, in amongst the crowd. Okay, lads, Calvin directed us towards a makeshift photography studio that had been set up in the foyer of the home. We stood in front of a screen emblazoned with names and brands that I'd only dreamed about until now. A flood of photographic lights and a large stand of press and camera crews ready to take our photographs. Holy shit, Dylan muttered beside me. This is the big time. It'll get bigger, I said to him. This is just the start. Deep breaths, kid. This is what you wanted, remember? Dylan, over here. Calvin called Dylan away, and I watched as our frontman, well out of his depth, but expertly shepherded by Calvin, began the first of many talks to the press. We were on our way. Life would never be the same. There would be no going back now. Not after today. So there you go. There's a little bit of the growth of the King brothers. I have enjoyed writing this story, and I know that you've enjoyed being a part of it too. And I know that I've stopped putting out weekly episodes, but I have had some personal issues and we won't go into those. But I do hope that you love being able to read the books in their solid book form. I can assure you from the deepest part of my heart that I'm working really, really hard on the next book in the series, and I have 8 of them planned. So we are well into the boys' backstory now. I see this series, the overarching series, being 4 stories of the boys' backstory, of how they get to where we all want them to be, because it's what we enjoy reading. And then 4 stories of how they cope and how they rebuild, or we find a completion of their relationships with each of the women that they're falling in love with. So I do hope that you will stay on the journey, because this is something that I've always wanted to do for a really long time, and I didn't know whether you guys would enjoy it, and you've proven to me over and over again that you are enjoying this and you are supporting it. And so as long as you continue to support the gorgeous King brothers and their band Yellow Lady, we can all watch their rise to fame. And I'm so excited to be sharing it all with you. And let me know what you think of these stories and the series so far. And I'll leave the links below this video of where you can find the books. They're all wide on all of the retailers. I've made a choice that I'm going to take all of my work wide now, for good or for bad. That's the decision that I've made, and I'm really pleased with the response that I'm getting from readers who are reading on the other platforms. We're also working on audio, and we've been working on audio for the Private Love series, and I'll leave the link to the Private Love series below as well, because we haven't got as far as we would like. And ACX has never been open to New Zealand before, and I still don't think it is open, but Find a Way Voices helping people like me bring our work to life in audio. And as you know, we've got a recording studio at home, so we've decided that we will do the audio at home here. You've all been reacting really well to me reading excerpts, so we figured that we would give it a go on audio. So if you'd like to listen to the first couple of chapters maybe of the Private Love series on audio, private message me or contact me via the contact page on my website, and I can send you out some of those chapters as we're doing them and see what you think. So there you go, a lot to think about, a lot of work for me to do, but I do hope that you enjoyed today's reading, and I am so terribly sorry. It has been such a long time since I've done one. I normally do a reading when I release a book, but I've just been so busy and so pressed, and life has been so out of control for such a long time, but it's calming down now, and I'm getting back to doing what I need to be doing and focusing on what I need to focus on, which is the words and the stories, and you lovely readers. And I'll hear from you again soon. Bye for now. Bye bye.